Hey everyone, Ethan here from Extreme RC 4x4, and today you might notice I'm on a new workbench. You're probably going to be seeing a lot of this in the future because it's really comfortable to work at. But the topic for today's video is our servo relocation bracket for the Team Associated CR12. If you have one of these trucks, you might have noticed that the front steering geometry is really not what it should be. I have a couple pictures I can put up on the screen for you guys. But before we go ahead and get into the install, this is our piece that we have here. Basically, this replaces your battery tray that comes on the truck from the factory. And you also get these two pieces, which kind of serve as a clamp. We'll get into that when we get to the install, but if you are interested in one of these, I'll put the pricing information in the description, and it's best to contact me by extremerc4x4@gmail.com. That's what works best for me. But as far as the product goes, if there are some scratches in it, I would like to mention that the aluminum sheets here, they come with some scratches in them, and it's just not worth the time to machine down the whole surface to be completely perfect. So in order to keep the price down, there are some scratches in the pieces, but nothing major. You'll also notice I have the Extreme RC 4x4 in there just for some branding and to help sell some more of these in the future. But the first step that we want to take is just pulling our ESC and the receiver off of the double-sided tape. I've already pulled mine off, so that's why that was so easy. And we can set our body over here, but what I'm going to do first is remove our battery tray just with the 4 bolts here. So now that we have all of these parts removed, take note of the spacers here. We have a short spacer as well as a taller spacer in the back here. We'll want to remove this Velcro so that we can reattach it onto our new battery tray. And this just pulls right out of here. If you want to see a comparison of the two pieces here, you can see that they're very similar and they lay right on top of each other. I have changed the Velcro points slightly just to be further apart for those of you that want to run a longer battery. This does have about the same amount of space on this battery tray as you would this battery tray, so if you are running a larger battery, if it fits on this tray, it should fit here. Next up, we're going to remove our factory servo. I like to just pull these 2 bolts off the side. Getting in the bottom here is kind of a pain. With all those screws removed, we can flip our truck over so that we can get at the servo horn. You'll want to remove it just right on the servo with the 1 screw. We will have to recenter that servo after we're done with the install. Just want to lightly pull this servo horn off. Next up, you're going to want to remove the factory mounting brackets from your servo here. I've already gone ahead and done this side, but they just remove with 2 bolts. It is pretty amazing to me just the amount of hardware that Team Associated has used just to mount a servo. You want to make sure you grab these plastic inserts on the sides of the frame, otherwise you will lose them. I like to keep them so that you can mount a bull bar that I also make and sell. So you can see just the massive parts. So now we can go ahead and get started installing our new parts here. We're going to want to make sure that we grab these spacers. Just right here, the plastic ones. And remember, the taller one goes by the transmission and the shorter one up by the front. And it usually works best if you slide it in kind of sideways here to get between those factory battery posts. Let's make sure all of our holes are lined up, and we'll be using the factory screws to reinstall it. These button head screws right here are going to be used back by the transmission. And then our countersunk screws are going to be used up front. And I would like to mention that the new servo mount that I have does work with many other brands of servos, anything full size like this truck has. This is a Servo servo we can pull out of the package here. I'm not going to be running this one, however, there is plenty of room for it. The only thing that you'd have to do to a servo like this is cut out these 45-degree cross members that they normally put on servos. You do not need those for this application. Now we can take the factory steering servo and place it up here. Now these are where these two pieces come into play. Just going to set those there. And I have these little guys. Some stainless steel screws to attach them with. Okay, now that we have those pieces installed, I would like to speak about their application and why I have chosen to machine them for these parts. The truth of it is that when you attach a servo directly with just the screws, oftentimes the plastic pieces will spread apart under pressure. So what these aluminum pieces are doing is sandwiching the plastic rather than trying to spread it apart, and this gives you just as good of a clamp down on your servo. Now we're going to go ahead and flip it over, and actually what you're going to want to do is find your battery. You can attach your electronics now if you wish. I should have also mentioned that before we install this tray in here, it's much easier to put your Velcros in before it's installed. However, it is doable. Turn on the truck and the remote. Now this is not the factory remote. However, you will want to find your steering trim and set it to the very neutral position. That way your servo has equal travel in both directions. And then we're going to straighten our wheels out as best as we can and pop the servo horn onto the servo. And again, with our factory hardware, we're just going to install it. Now we can unplug the battery and go ahead and take a look at this. Our new steering geometry looks much better in my opinion. And you also gain the point of the servo saver no longer bottoms out on your axle or on the steering rod right here. What happens now is that the servo saver really can hardly contact anything, maybe the front of the axle housing just barely, but the suspension is able to bottom out and it's just barely touching. So you do gain that as well, and really it's a very small movement of the servo. However, it's a much cleaner look, and you gain so much from having your steering geometry correct. Sometimes just when driving on the factory servo mount, you can find that it's easy to lock the tires up where the servo is unable to pull them out of a position, not because of the strength, just because of the steering geometry. So this in turn makes your steering servo feel a little bit stronger than it did before, as well as just a cleaner mounting. And really this tray is exactly the same as the factory one, however with the servo mount in it. So I'm kind of surprised that Team Associated was unable to think up this by themselves, but it is what it is. So thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure if you have an interest in one of these pieces that you give me an email, extremrc4x4@gmail.com. But thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.